I used to be a school psychologist working with children, so I didn't understand a lot about behavior management and helping kids manage their behavior. But when you become a parent, you don't even realize you have certain buttons that kid's going to find and push, right?
Totally. Yeah, I can stay calm when other kids, parent that I learned early on is like when I'm at someone else's house and helping their kid in a big meltdown, like no problem. I am not triggered at all. But then it was like more work when it was my kid, because that is a different kind of trigger. So it was definitely a next level of work for myself. And then realizing that that's kind of what we're missing teaching parents often is like, yeah, of course you're triggered by your behavior. And like, how do you everyone says just stay calm, but like, what does that even mean? How do you create calm in your body? Most people don't know how to do that.
Right. And like I said, the triggers that I had no idea I had until my daughter started pushing those buttons, it just made me realize that I'm also growing. I'm also learning. And just because I'm a professional or I specialize in this area doesn't mean I'm going to be perfect all the time. I'm going to make mistakes, but that's what we need to help, I guess, teach parents is to be more forgiving of themselves and know that this is a learned behavior. We can learn these skills. It's not an intuitive thing that we're supposed to have all the answers. I have something exciting to share with you. Over the past several months, I've been developing a brand new 10-week coaching program designed to help women break free from chronic stress, anxiety, overwhelm, and emotional exhaustion by addressing the root causes and not just the symptoms. To celebrate the launch, I'm offering 5 scholarship opportunities for women who are ready to create meaningful change in their lives, but may need additional support to make the investment possible. If you've been struggling with anxiety, feeling stuck and constantly overwhelmed, or finding yourself trapped in cycles of worry and stress, I invite you to schedule a free consultation call to see if you're a good fit for the program and whether you qualify for one of these scholarship opportunities. You can learn more and apply by visiting drsecandry.com. I would love the opportunity to support you on your journey towards greater peace, confidence, and emotional well-being. Today, I'll be interviewing a parenting coach who works with highly sensitive children. Let me briefly introduce her before I bring her on. Melissa Schulz is a parenting coach and behavior analyst who helps parents of strong-willed, highly sensitive, and neurodiverse kids turn daily struggles into calmer, more connected moments using her proven processes. Melissa has been recognized as the best parenting coach in the United States for 2025 by Evergreen Awards. Hi, Melissa. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm excited to talk to you and learning more about working as a parent coach and then also the kind of children you help, the highly sensitive neurodivergent children, will be very interesting for those listening. So start off by telling us a little bit about what is it that you do? How did you get interested in working with this group of children? And then who is it that you help exactly?
Okay, my history very quickly. I have worked basically with kids with different emotional or behavioral challenges for the last 22 years. I started when I was 18, like working in group homes and residential facilities with kids with had a history of abuse and very significant mental health issues. Went to grad school. My master's is in counseling. I'm a board certified behavior analyst, and no one knows what that means. But basically, it's like the study of human behavior. And also like on that journey of all of my professional experience and education, I have, struggle a lot with anxiety. And then I also started raising my own 3 kids. And so interestingly, 2 of my kids are neurodiverse, and then I have a really strong-willed one. And so it set me up so well because I have all of the expertise to support them, but it also gave me a really unique perspective on kind of combining like what professionals think parents actually need, and then going through it as a parent myself, realizing why a lot of that falls flat. So one of my previous business was actually like an in-home behavioral health company here in California. I grew it to having about 75 employees, but it was through medical insurance. And it was very kind of like, here's like focusing on the kid. And I'd write these beautiful behavior plans for the parent that would totally work, but I would give them this 10-page, plan. And then my minutes would be up with insurance. I'd be like, oh, see you next month. And of course, that was really hard for a lot of the families to implement this complicated plan, not only because they don't have the support for understanding all of the things and like, being able to ask questions, but also they didn't often have like the emotional support, the regulation. They were really triggered by the behavior. There's so many other things. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is what's missing. And so that's when I started my parent coaching business, kind of on the side of my other business, where I support parents who just have great kids and great parents, but have a lot of behavior challenges. And I help them with exactly how to respond to the behaviors, but also giving the parent all the support that they need to be able to be consistent with managing the behaviors, to be able to stay calm, even if their kid's having a meltdown in the grocery store. And so I ended up selling the other business so I could just do parenting coaching full-time a couple years ago. And I absolutely love it and just love the impact that it makes on the whole family.
God, there's so many directions I want to go with this because this is such an interesting topic. But before we continue, can you explain a little bit about what is a neurodiverse child? Because I used to be a school psychologist and we used to just call them learning differences or learning disabilities. And now there's a new term called neurodivergent. So a little bit about like what is it and how is it different from learning disabilities and the learning challenges that the schools identify?
Yeah. So neurodiverse is just like kind of an umbrella term for a lot of different diagnoses where the brain is just actually processing the world in a different way than like neurotypical people. And if you're just listening to this, I always have to do like air quotes when I say like typical, because I don't know how many, there's no one typical living in my house. But so the main ones under this category that everyone's heard about would be like ADHD, autism, dyslexia is under the neurodivergent category. And then there's a lot of other ones that are maybe a little bit less well known. What I have, so some kids might have a learning disability, but that might actually not be neurodivergent, or it might be. Where I come in is I really help with all the behavior stuff. So where it's more of like a behavior disability, I did air quotes again, where there's some kids that just like the normal parenting strategies, the normal teaching strategies don't work for their behavior. Just like when a kid has a learning disability, maybe like the typical ways that everyone's teaching doesn't work for that child's brain. And so they just need maybe specialized support in how their brain works to teach them academics. I come in and I help parents know exactly how to teach their kids more appropriate behaviors and better behavioral skills in a way that will work for their kids' personality and brain.
Do you find that having a background of being a behavior specialist and learning about how to manage behaviors has helped you become a better parent yourself?
Yes, like what's coming up, I want to say 100% and I want to say no at the same time, which is really weird. Like I definitely think it's given me a big advantage, but then it's also like really different with your own kids. So like I even get coaching and support from my colleagues because sometimes you have like kind of a blinder with your own kids. You need someone to come in that can see it more clearly. Like a silly example, it was just like I had like potty trained, helped hundreds of families potty train their kids. That was like a huge thing we did in my last business. But like when it came to my own potty training, my oldest, I would like had to like go to someone I was supervising and like tell me what to do like I'm a client. Like I'm just like having a total mind block with how to do it with my own kids. So yes, I think it really helps because all the knowledge is in there. But I think we all sometimes need help in knowing how to apply that to our own family at home when we're like off work and just like want to relax and not be on shift.
Totally. I mean, I used to be a school psychologist working with children, so I did understand a lot about behavior management and helping kids manage their behavior. But when you become a parent, you don't even realize you have certain buttons that kid's going to find and push, right?
Totally. Yeah, I can stay calm when other kids, that I learned early on is like when I'm at someone else's house and helping their kid in a big meltdown, like no problem. I am not triggered at all. But then it was like more work when it was my kid, because that is a different kind of trigger. So it was definitely a next level of work for myself. And then realizing that that's kind of what we're missing teaching parents often is like, yeah, of course you're triggered by your behavior. And like, how do you everyone says just stay calm, but like, what does that even mean? How do you create calm in your body? Most people don't know how to do that.
Right. And like I said, the triggers that I had no idea I had until my daughter started pushing those buttons, it just made me realize that I'm also growing. I'm also learning. And just because I'm a professional or I specialize in this area doesn't mean I'm going to be perfect all the time. I'm going to make mistakes, but that's what we need to help, I guess, teach parents is to be more forgiving of themselves and know that this is a learned behavior. We can learn these skills. It's not an intuitive thing that we're supposed to have all the answers.
Yeah. I think one, like maybe the biggest thing I've noticed between people that kind of come in with that teaching or behavioral background that have maybe more of a high needs kid is often it's like the more you know, the more you realize how much you don't know. So I'm honestly the first one to bring in an expert to help me consult with my kids, because I know even though I've been doing this for 20 plus years and, have a graduate education and all that stuff, I'm like, oh my gosh, there's still so much more to know. Whereas I feel like when people don't have that education, there's just this myth that they should somehow know how to do it on their own.
Yeah.
And so I found that people that have more education are actually like, oh my gosh, I need more support with this because I know how much there is to know out there and I don't know enough. Where people that don't have that, it's a really sad myth that they think somehow they should know exactly how to manage the behaviors of a higher needs kid for all the ages and stages and phases on their own. And then they feel like a bad parent that they don't, which is it's not true. Yeah. Like you're saying, it's not like you're born knowing how to parent your kids. It's like all skills that you can learn. But until you learn those skills, it's really hard.
And also understanding that 100 years ago, we all lived in communities and we helped each other. And the aunts were involved, the grandparents were involved, the neighbors were involved.
Yes.
Now we're expected to know everything by ourselves. And there's so much shame because we're falling short.
100%. And even like maybe, 50, 60 years ago, it was like, okay, after school, just go out and play. Right. Yeah. Go kids. I'll see you at dinner. Right. And so kids were home a lot less and just a lot more independent. And then, lots of things happen in our society where that's not really safe for our kids anymore. So now we're like, not only do we not have that community support as much, but also like we're all home together.
Yeah.
So we're spending tons more time with our kids, often indoors and with more on our own, less support. And we're seeing more and more of these behavior issues where we don't know what to do and we don't have anyone helping us.
And also, like you said, 50 years ago, our parents had a chance to take a break from us and separate and go do their own thing, where now they're 24/7 with us, especially if you're a stay-at-home mom.
Yes.
And that can get overwhelming, and you're human. You're going to just lose your mind. So what happens when parents just completely lose it and just go off and behave in a way that they're not proud of? How do you help them forgive themselves for that or redirect and repair whatever happened?
Yeah. I mean, I think like the biggest thing like in the moment is to recognize that like we are human and we like are going to mess up and make mistakes and like that's okay. And so learning to forgive ourselves, like that no one's perfect. You don't have to be perfect to be a good parent. Like perfection's not even a thing when it comes to parenting. And then becoming really good at that repair, like learning how to forgive ourselves quickly. And then going to apologize to our kids quickly. Then we're modeling that for our kids. What I notice is a lot of parents just get stuck in that, like they just beat themselves up forever and they get stuck in that cycle. And then like that makes it really hard to repair. And it makes it really hard to like do better next time. You just like get stuck in the shame and it feels terrible. And then you keep doing the same thing over and over, like on a hamster wheel. And so learning how to get out of that hamster wheel, forgive yourself, know it's normal, make it right. And then be able to more like analytically, like I talk about like putting the detective hat on or the scientist hat on, right? And like looking back on what happened, why was I triggered? Why was that such a big deal for me? Why did my kid behave that way? I wonder what they're learning right now. I wonder what skill they're missing right now. What should I do next time that happens? Because it's going to happen again. And we can't do that if we're just sitting like in a shame spiral. And so being able to get out of that and then think more analytically about what happened and maybe what do I want to do next time? And so that way we actually get out of that cycle.
Yeah, I always emphasize with my patients and with the people that I work with that, and I want everybody, all the listeners today to take away from the fact that being a good enough parent is good enough. That's all we need to do. Let's not focus on perfection.
Yeah, that's just not even possible. That's just a
No.
waste of time to even think that's a thing. Like I always joke, like I'm doing everything I can for my kids now, and I'm like saving up for their therapy later for all the ways I mess up, right? So like just normalizing that, yeah, of course I'm going to mess up. I'm one imperfect human. There's no way. But also trusting that I can, there's a lot of lessons that we can learn together on the way of my imperfect. They don't need me to be perfect because they're not perfect either. They need a mom who knows how to handle her mistakes and how to make it right and can show them that the whole time they're growing up.
Yeah, and you're right. You want to teach them that they don't need to be perfect, just like you're not
Exactly.
perfect. Yeah.
Exactly.
One thing that has helped me with my patients that are having trouble with their kids, it's so easy for them to come to a psychologist and say, fix my kid, right? But
Totally.
a lot of times, or come to you and say, fix my kid.
Yeah, they do. Uh-huh.
Yeah, but a lot of times as parents, we're contributing to their bad behavior without even realizing it. So what I tell them is to, for a week, just watch and do nothing. Don't intervene. Don't correct behavior. Just watch and
Mm-hmm.
pay attention. What comes up for you? What do you want to do? Like I've had to
Yeah.
remind myself so many times to bite my tongue and not say what I want to say.
We talk way too much. That's like such a common mistake is we just say way too many things.
Right. And so what do you think about that? And what are some strategies that you help parents to understand how they're contributing to making that behavior worse? I'm not saying the parents are to blame, but it's our behaviors we're constantly responding to each other, interacting with each other. And so the kids are responding to us in our own emotional regulation. So we might be escalating them without even realizing it. So what do you normally do in that situation?
Yeah, so that is like very similar to like a lot of people, they come to me because they're like, fix my kid, right? And then they're like, wait, you actually just changed, like now I'm just different. And now that did improve their behaviors, but they come to me also like, this kid's the problem, fix me. And I'm like, no, let me help you change you, which will then change your behavior. Because you can't actually like change another human, right? Like you can't make them poop. You can't make them eat. Like we can't make another human do anything. All we can do is change what we're doing, and that can influence the other people in our life, especially these kids that we love so much. But yeah, one big thing that I'll do with my clients is like talk a lot about how it is all related. And I love like it's the distinction of like it's not your fault. Like this is not like a guilt thing, like it's your fault your kid's doing this, but it is recognizing that like whatever's happening in the house right now, it's actually working for your kid. Right? They're getting some kind of need met out of it. Like all behavior is communication. And like whatever behavior they're doing that's driving you crazy, that's their best attempt to like communicate that need with you. And like we can be sad that that's their best attempt, but also what we want to do is like kind of dig in and change and teach them, respond to that differently and then teach them a better way to get that need met. So like we have to change what we're doing. And so I kind of similarly start with clients, like I have like a 5-step process that I take them through that works for any behavior. And the first step is like, I do it a little bit differently, but like just pick one thing, right? We're just going to start with one because otherwise we try to change everything at once and it gets so overwhelming. So we just work on one behavior and I just have them kind of write down, like kind of take notes on what has happened for about a week. Like when does it happen? What happens before? What happens after? Yeah. How do you feel about it? Why do you think that triggered you? And often parents just from like taking the time to pause and observe and just kind of notice the patterns that they're in, like not changing anything, just kind of being more of an observer is so powerful. And we see so many shifts just from that first step without me telling them to change a thing. It gives them so much more awareness because so often when we are in the busy parenting world, we're just like putting out fires and going on to the next thing and never really pausing to notice those patterns.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not, like I said, it's not, and like you said, it's not that anybody's at fault. It's just a matter of paying attention and being aware. It's so interesting when we're dealing with an animal, like when I was training my puppy, I didn't take his behavior personally. I just tried to see how am I making his behavior worse or why is his behavior getting worse? What can I do to train him so that he's not causing damage or barking or biting or doing any of those things? But with our own kids, we take it so personally when they're misbehaving. And it is probably because they're triggering us in a way. So I specialize in anxiety-based disorders. And a lot of the parents that come to me, their kids have anxiety or OCD, and a lot of the meltdowns are related because their brain gets stuck, they get tunnel vision, they have a certain image of what they want accomplished and they don't get that done. And so they have meltdowns. But what's interesting is anxiety is highly genetic and it gets passed on from generation to generation. And what a lot of parents don't understand is they also have anxiety, and their anxiety is impacting the children as well.
And so one thing that I find that I actually love about the fact that like I can change what I'm doing to change my child's behavior is some other approaches are like, because I have a kid with ADHD and a kid with autism at home, right? And there might be some people that are like, oh yeah, you're going to have those behaviors forever because of that diagnosis or because they're really strong-willed. And what I love about the work that I do is like, no, I can always change what I'm doing. I can always manage my triggers better. I can always like just increase my capacity for what I can handle so that no matter what they're doing, I always know I'm handling it the right way. I always feel like I'm okay. I don't have to be triggered by their behaviors. And I feel like that just gives me so much more hope versus like, nope, sorry, your kid just has behavior issues and that's your life now. So I actually love like the fact that there is so much responsibility, so many things that we as parents can do to support these wonderful kids.
There are kids that can really, really push our buttons. And for some parents, maybe having autistic kid or having a child with autism or having a child that's highly sensitive or having a lot of behavior issues can be really, really difficult.
Yeah.
How do you help the parents deal with that disappointment in life or mourning the loss of the healthy child, as they say? How do you help them deal with that?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many different things. That's a lot of the work, honestly, that we do. Like parents, I joke because in my 5-step process, like the last step is like what you do to respond to your child's challenging behaviors. And that's what everyone wants to know. But like, it's really all this other work that we do before that helps change the response and change your child's behavior. And so there is a lot of grief that comes up with, thinking that your kid, before I actually had kids, I thought my kids would, there's no way I would have imagined that my kids would behave the way they do now because you just don't know. And so it's like letting go of the fake kids that we made up before. I do a lot of work on triggers, and it is really fascinating because when you dig into it, and I'm sure you do this in your practice as well, like there are behaviors that commonly trigger people. So like, being late for an activity, like the morning routine and then maybe being late is triggering for most parents, but like for different reasons. And so we just get really curious about like why that bothers them so much, right? So some people, it's like they grew up and you had to be on time and, early was on time and on time is late kind of thing. And like, so that's like it drilled into them and they have that perspective. Other parents are really triggered by being late because like they don't want to do like the walk of shame to the office to get like the tardy slip, right? Like the embarrassment of maybe having their kid be late might make them feel like a bad parent. And so they are trying to avoid that. Some parents just really feel like their kid should be able to get ready on time and like there shouldn't be an issue. And like, that's kind of where they're stuck. And so first, like figuring out why, like what's the why behind the trigger. And then like we do a lot of like just perspective shifting or like mindset work on like, what if that wasn't a problem? Like, what if you are late today? Like, what if you're just going to be late and it's going to be fine? And then how do we plan for next time so maybe that doesn't constantly happen? And so really just kind of working on making whatever the behavior is just more neutral and less emotionally charged, releasing the emotions that it comes up and figuring out also what's creating all of that strong emotional response and releasing it. So that way the behaviors become much more neutral and you're just like, we're going to be late for school today. Okay. Getting upset about it isn't going to help. After this, let's just get through this. And then next time we'll come up with a plan or we'll get up earlier so this doesn't keep happening.
I know some parents that are feeling so guilty for constantly, just because they're so overwhelmed and they don't have any more left to give.
Yes.
Because they're not taking care of themselves. They're neglecting their needs. And so they're more reactive to their children, but then they feel so much guilt for constantly yelling and screaming at their kids.
Yeah.
How do you handle that? How do you support the parents with that?
Yeah, that's on like, so that really is the work right there. Like exactly what you're describing. Like, and again, people come to me because they want to fix their kids. And what I want to do instead is really help. I talk a lot about just increasing capacity. And so like, you think of like, a capacity is how much, how many people a room can hold, right? And it's like at max capacity. And I do feel like today, just in our society, like most moms are at max capacity constantly, moms and dads, right? Most parents are living their life at max capacity. I think of capacity as like a coffee cup, right? And often we just are so filled to the brim with all, work and the household and maybe taking care of parents and, maybe all the kids. And especially if there's behavior challenges, and especially if maybe the parents like I have mental health issues that they're also working through, our coffee cup is just overflowing all the time. And that is a terrible way to live. It then puts our nervous system into that like constant fight or flight. So now it's like, we don't even really have a choice. We're just in constant reaction because our body is in constant survival mode. And so what I will kind of talk to parents about is like, what we want to do is like, just increase your capacity, like get you a bigger coffee cup so you can like keep the kids, right? Keep the things that you're doing. But what if all of that wasn't at your max anymore? What if you had lots of margin? And so we do a lot of work on how do we just get you that bigger coffee cup so that way, whatever your kids are doing, whatever's happening in your life, like you're still okay. You have a strong mindset, strong perspective on it. You have really good emotional management, emotional processing. We also do a lot of like nervous system regulation work to help get your nervous system out of that survival mode, constant fight or flight. And then when you put all of that together, you can just handle so much more. And so I've seen this, I do this work personally so much so that I can be the mom I want to be for my own kids. And then it's just so amazing the journey that other parents have when they learn how to get that bigger coffee cup.
Yeah, a lot of people feel just that they have to do everything all at once and they sacrifice their sleep. They feel like I'm not a good enough mom if I'm taking care of myself first. But just like that whole airport analogy, or airplane analogy, we have to put the oxygen mask on ourselves.
Have to. Yeah. I look at there's 5 main areas of capacity that I'll talk to clients about. And so the first one is the mental capacity, just how you're thinking about what's happening, right? Because most of us are just telling ourselves really negative stories and negative thoughts about everything that's happening in our life, about ourselves, about our kids. And then that's playing constantly in our brain, which that sucks away all of our energy and joy. So we work a lot on turning down the volume of all of those negative thoughts. We work a lot on emotional capacity. So the nervous system regulation, how do we process emotions? So many parents I talk to, and this is my journey as well, are trying to teach their kids emotional regulation, but they never learned it themselves, right? I talk a lot about, the kids I tend to support have really big feelings. And we often as kids, we were just told to be happy or go in your room, right? So we don't have a lot of safety around big feelings when we have it in our body or when our kid has them in their body. So learning as adults so we can teach our kids how it's okay to feel overwhelmed. And here's what you do when you feel overwhelmed. And here's how we can let that pass. We do a lot of work for some parents. It really does come down to the physical self-care. How are you eating? How are you sleeping, right? Most parents are not sleeping enough, chronic sleep deprivation. So of course you're exhausted and frustrated and snappy. And so we dig a lot into nothing crazy, but the basics of how you're fueling yourself. Are you getting outside? Are you going for walks? Are you drinking water? Are you eating the leftovers off your kid's plate? Or are you actually eating healthy foods for your body? How are you sleeping? Sometimes the sleep is a behavioral thing with the kid too. So I usually start with sleep because sleep is the foundation for everything. And so I work on and then some family, it's time capacity. It's all of a sudden they have so much on their plate, so many, especially women, they say yes to everything, right? They don't really know how to prioritize, or they feel guilty for prioritizing their own things. They feel like they should take care of everyone else first and they get the leftovers, but there's no leftovers. And so we work more on just the basics of organization and calendaring and to-do lists and how to manage all of that, how to say no, how to have boundaries. That's not every client's a little bit different, right? With what we focus on. And then the last aspect that means so much to me and to some of my clients is that spiritual aspect as well. So if you do have faith or spirituality, how are you leaning on that and bringing that in? That's been such a big part of my journey. Because some of us oh, I believe in God and I know he can do everything, right? But then we're but I'm really stressed out and I can't do this. And it's those two parts of our brain are not talking to each other. So how do we more holistically depend on our faith or our higher power in those moments and trust that it's going to be okay? So those are kind of the different areas I look at for clients and how we can help get them that bigger coffee cup.
I mean, it's great to teach kids about spirituality and the religious and faith practice that you have. But for kids that are really, really young, at the minimum, if you just like all of you lay down together and listen to a short guided meditation together, or listen to a story together, all of you just kind of laying down and calming your system down can make such a big difference.
Yes.
It doesn't have to be a long time. It could be a 10-minute break.
Yeah. Or 5 minutes. Yeah. There's like 3 to 5 minute ones that are great if your kid can't sit very long and maybe they can't even lay down, but then they're sitting, moving around a little, like that's okay for, just like, introducing them that practice of like how to come back to calm, and doesn't have to be perfect.
Well, a lot of people don't even realize, like they say that there's a study, and I can't really remember, maybe I'm totally going to butcher it, but when the police are called for domestic violence situations, they contribute the amount of noise in the house for escalating the situation. So the TV's on, the kids are screaming, the parents are screaming, and nobody's in control, and it just escalates everyone. And so nobody is able to react appropriately. But for understanding that creating a calm environment, maybe like even diffusing some essential oils in the corner, some lemon oil or lavender oil, and then turning the TV off and getting kids off their tablets, allowing them to listen to stories.
Dimming the lights. Yeah.
I used to love those children's stories. Now they have podcasts. Now there's YouTube. I'm talking about just getting rid of the visual, letting them listen.
Yes.
And while they're playing, while they're talking, while they're doing things.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. But it is like one of my main things. I like give out magnets. If we were in person, I'd give you one, but it's just like calm is contagious.
Yeah.
Like my calm is going to be contagious. I can set the mood in my house for my kids. If I'm in like this fight or flight survival mode, right? Like everyone is co-regulating with me, and it's not fair, right? Especially as someone who has a lot of anxiety, right? Like that's not fair, but also that's how it is. And so what I can focus on is how can I regulate myself, come back to calm for myself. And then just my presence can really affect the whole mood of my home. So if I am prioritizing like setting up a calm environment that helps me, that's going to really help my kids. Or if I'll just, if my kid's having a hard time, I don't always need to fix it. I can't always fix it. Maybe I'm just sitting next to them, taking deep breaths. And maybe I'm saying a prayer and I'm just being like a calm anchor that they can come match when they're ready, instead of like me getting frustrated and me yelling. And now we're each like amplifying the situation.
I also like taught my daughter at a very young age that I need a timeout. Like I didn't want timeout to be a punishment. I need a timeout. I need to calm myself down. You need to calm yourself down. So that I'm not reacting in a way that's damaging long term.
Oh yeah.
Not that I didn't do that. I mean, all parents make mistakes.
Don't feel like they don't have like, it's like giving yourself permission. Yeah, I do that often. I'm like, kids, I'm feeling really grumpy right now. Like I'm going to go take a walk around the block to try to get my grumpies out. We talk a lot about like emotion, those big uncomfortable emotions, like being in my body. And then like, what do we do to get it out in a healthy way? Like kids tend to understand that better than like processing your emotions. Right. And for a lot of kids, like just taking deep breaths doesn't work. They don't want to. My kids, like, don't tell them to take deep breaths. They're so annoyed by hearing that. Like they get really, that's like triggering for them. But like, how can, like, let's go scream into a pillow. Let's do some jumping jacks. Let's run around the block. Let's race. Whatever they're feeling. And for myself, I love to do walks. I will just go into, my kids are finally old enough that I can usually pee in peace. So I'll just go to the bathroom, right? And splash water on my face and take some deep breaths. And I am the first one to be like, hey, I am feeling like lots of big like frustration inside. And it's not because of you guys, but I don't want to take it out on you. So mom's going to go take a little break. And usually they understand that. Maybe not always, but it's really good modeling for them too, that like everyone feels like that sometimes. And here's what you can do with that instead of like taking it out on the people around you.
And sometimes you might not need to go pee. You just need to go sit in the bathroom, close the door, and take a
totally. Yeah. Another thing that we did that I love, it's my favorite. I didn't even realize how effective it would be, but my kiddo with ADHD has that like constant talking. So there's just constant noise in the house, and I'm not noise sensitive, but it becomes tiring after a little bit where like I want to hear what this kid is saying because I love them so much, but also like my brain cannot process more words. It's like a very interesting type of exhaustion. And so I've worked a lot on my own capacity just to be able to handle all the things because I really want to hear what they're saying. But also we implemented at an early age, like just quiet time, right? Like mom's just having some quiet time. Mom's not going to talk to anyone for a little bit. Like maybe we're all in the car but like mom's just not going to talk. You guys can still talk, but mom needs like a little bit of quiet. And it was cool because we've done that forever. And then I have my kids right now are 12, 10, and 4. And so sometimes now the little one wants to talk all the time and the older ones want some space. And so that's something that they kind of taught him is like, nope, I'm having quiet time. And so everyone's now very respectful. If one person is just getting a little overstimulated, that person can say, oh, I need some quiet time. And in my houses, we have little quiet corners they can go. Or if we're all trapped in the car together, then everyone knows, just respect that person and don't talk to them for a little bit until they're ready. And that's been like really good for me to get resets when I need them. And then my kids to learn that as well.
Yeah, the sad thing is they do get really quiet when they become teenagers, and that's sad.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and this is a way to manage that by keeping the connection.
Yeah.
Right. Because yes, later on, I'm not going to need quiet time. Right.
Yeah.
But I was able to like not snap when they were talking so much as kids. So hopefully they never learned that they're too much or that they talk too much or that they're annoying. Like I never wanted them to get that message because that's more my issue. If I'm overwhelmed, that's not their issue. And so we're not in those teenage years quite yet, but I'm focusing on that connection. So when the teenage years happen, we'll still have that. I haven't like disrupted that connection.
Right now, there's all the buzz about, or maybe this is on the declining side of the whole gentle parenting. What are your thoughts on that?
I have not like extensively researched gentle parenting. Everything that I have like in brief research though, I like a lot of it. I think it gets a bad rap because people hear the word gentle and they just think that like you can do whatever, we're letting kids do whatever they want. And what actual gentle parenting is just having like very clear boundaries and treating kids with a lot of respect. And so those two I love. Like I'm very on board with that. That's definitely aligned. I think that works for all kids. So, but yeah, some of it is just like, I think it's like having loving boundaries is very different than just giving kids whatever they want.
I think what you said earlier, we talk too much, and gentle parenting is reasoning with a child during a time when they're unreasonable.
Oh, okay. So that I would never, that I don't.
We can't do that. We have to be, like you said, all parenting should be gentle. We should be gently correcting them.
Yes.
Gently redirecting them. But it cannot be this long negotiation with this child and explanations of why we're doing X, Y, and Z. That's the part that I get annoyed with.
Oh, I did not see that part, but I'm 100% with you. That's one of the main things I say is like, because anytime a human is really emotional, right? We're not logical. We're not in our logical brain. Right. We're not rational. And honestly, with kids, especially maybe if they have language, now we're adding all this language to a kid who's already escalated, which is just going to further the situation. So it's like, teach kids when they're teachable. Right. So like, yes, explain it all to them, teach those missing skills, but you do that in moments of calm. And I like talk about like little like nuggets, right? We don't do like an hour lecture with our 3-year-old, but maybe we'll have a 3-minute little talk about, how to have safe hands or what do we do when there's a lot of mad we'll read a Daniel Tiger book and learn it that way. But when my kid's actually having the meltdown, I am saying very little.
Yeah.
Exactly. Until they're calm and can hear it.
Yeah, I used to use movies, books, stories,
everything,
because it's less direct and they don't feel like you're lecturing them. They're just learning a lesson. Yeah. Where when you're having these long discussions about why we don't do X, Y, and Z, like they say, for kids, they don't hear the word don't. So if a kid is jumping up and down on the couch and you're saying, don't jump up and down on the couch, all they're hearing is jump up and down.
Jump up and down, yeah.
But you have to say, sit down, put your feet on the ground.
Exactly.
This is why teachers have been using that skill or that strategy for years, because you tell them what you want them to do.
Yes. Yeah. And then teach when they're teachable and then focus on regulation when they're dysregulated. And there's no talking when sometimes I'll just like say one maybe calming phrase or notice when they're starting to calm down more and then give maybe clear options. But I'm still like very intentional with not talking a lot. But yeah, that's like one of the most common mistakes we make as parents is we just like want to keep talking. And often, especially when we have kids with lots of behavior issues or lots of things going on, right? Like kids love our attention. Like it's everything for them. And sometimes we're just, when we're in that putting out fire mode and then we do the big lectures every time they act up, they start getting the most attention from us when they act up. Yeah. And we don't do it on purpose. We don't even notice it's happening. It's very sneaky. But yeah, instead I'm like, I'm going to give you all the attention and all of our fun moments together. And then when you're having a hard time, I'm going to be with you quietly. We're going to address it and then we're going to be done, move on. And then now you're going to get lots of attention again once you're back on track.
But that's what I was saying earlier, where we don't even realize we're escalating our own the situation, because if a child is never getting your attention until they act out, what are they going to do? They're going to keep acting out because they know yes, it's negative attention, but that's the only attention they're getting. So they're going to get
good enough.
It's good enough.
Right? It's good enough. Yeah. Attention is attention at the end of the day. And yeah, some kids just need a lot more attention than others. Like I talk about, the attention bucket and the control bucket, and they need those to be filled to be regulated. And some kids just have really big attention buckets and they need a lot to feel regulated. And some kids have a smaller bucket and it's a little bit easier. And you don't get to pick and they don't get to pick how big their bucket is and how much attention they need. But that is part of figuring that out. And how do we meet that need with all the appropriate, and most of our kids are doing great things most of the time. Yeah. Our brains are just not trained to catch the good. Our brains only notice when things go wrong.
Right. And that's what we need to that's why I give them a week of doing nothing, because we end up realizing all we do is pay attention to them when they're doing something wrong. And that's not creating connection.
Yes.
But another thing that doesn't work as far as fix my child is there's so many other things contributing to that behavior. There's that genetic component, like I said, of the ADHD, the depression, the anxiety, whatever. But there's lifestyle stuff. So if that kid is constantly on a tablet, if that kid is not making healthy food choices, if they're eating a lot of sugar, like I had a parent tell me their kid used to steal the sugar.
What's like the packets?
The sugar container, and it was in her room, and she was just eating.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
And to the point that she ended up having seizures. And so sometimes we don't realize the junk that they're eating and how that's contributing to their behavior. So
and I find it, and I'm sure you find this as well, is when kids do have more behavior issues, the parents are more tired. Yeah. And so they are more likely to just be like, okay, just watch screens. Or okay, fine, just eat that, right? Because they don't have the capacity or energy to have those struggles, or they know that the behaviors are going to be so big when they try and they don't know how to handle it. So they tend to give in more, which then makes the behaviors bigger. And so I'm all about moderation. Like, some kids, some of my clients are very sensitive to certain things and we cut it out completely. But most of the time it's like, how can we just have healthy relationships with these things? But where there's like a very clear system and boundaries in the house and the parent, it's very easy to enforce that.
Well, I've had great luck helping parents fix the child's diet and focusing on gut health, because when the child's gut is healthy, it's releasing those feel-good, calming chemicals, and they're not as reactive to everything. Yeah. But when they're not, when we're doing gardening and we're growing lettuce or tomatoes and there's something happening to the plants, we're not going to blame the plants. We're going to see the environment to see, are they getting enough nutrition? Are they getting enough sunlight? Are they getting, we don't do that with our children. We just give them junk food and keep them happy that way and think, okay, they should be fine, but they're not. And a lot of times it's the external things that are contributing to their behavior.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. It's like, we need to look at the whole picture, but I think sometimes we are so overwhelmed that we just blame the kid. And then we just really hope that they're I want to keep everything I'm doing the same, and I want them to change. We're almost waiting for them to grow into my parenting style. Right. But they're not going to change until I change. Nothing changes if nothing changes. So I have to go first. And yes, it's holistically looking at the whole household. Yeah. What are we eating? What's our screen diet, our food diet, right? How are we sleeping? All of these foundations where, if you're sleep deprived, if you are not getting any nutrients in your body, the best behavior strategies don't matter because you don't have that foundation in place. Yeah.
And I constantly had to remind myself that I am dealing I'm addressing situations from a fully functional brain, fully developed brain, and their brains are not developed yet.
Totally.
And they're constantly reactive, and they're reacting from emotions that are very irrational sometimes. And we cannot expect them to think like we're thinking.
Yes. Yeah. I think that comes down to some of the talking as well. Like we try to logic our kids out of their feelings, right? Like, you asked for the blue cup and I gave you the blue cup and now you're mad. Like that doesn't make sense, right? And like, yes, you're right, adults, but also that is not going to be helpful when you're, 2-year-olds melting down because you gave them the cup they asked for. So it's like, we need to actually address the emotion, teach them, what they're feeling and how to deal with that feeling so they can work through that tantrum instead of just trying to argue with them so that they're like, you're right, mother. This is illogical. I'm going to, if only that worked. It works with other adults, but it does not work with our kids. And so many times we try to use strategies that work with other adults with these little people whose brain is like barely developing. I always talk, especially like the little toddler preschoolers, it's like their brain is like Swiss cheese, like with duct tape, trying to fill up all the holes, right? Like it is not consistent. Yes, they could do that 2 minutes ago, but now they can't. And that's just where we're at. We're in like a Swiss cheese hole and like, that's okay. We just got to deal with that, with our fully functional brain. That's still so hard for us to be emotionally regulated. And even adults have a hard time eating healthy and managing screen time. So of course that's going to be hard for kids that don't have that prefrontal cortex developed.
Exactly. And all of this whole conversation just reminds us how hard parenting is and what a difficult job it is and how we need to support the parents, but also as parents, we need to be forgiving of ourselves, forgiving of our children, and then just really appreciating all that our parents did for us, because I'm sure all of us gave our parents a hard time. Maybe it was just me, but
no, we all did. And yes,
parenting, it's not always you being a parent. Sometimes you need to parent yourself. Sometimes you need to forgive your own parents. Sometimes you need to be forgiving of your kids. And so there's a lot that's involved with parenting, and it's a huge topic. Let's just be more forgiving and just be okay with being good enough.
Yes, I could not agree more.
Yeah. So you do have a pretty tough job in front of you. I'm sure you struggle with that, but I'm sure it's also rewarding. So where can people find you and connect with you?
Yeah, my website is melissaschulz.com. Schulz is spelled kind of weird. It's SCHULZ as in zebra. But I do have a free guide, how to get kids to listen. So I'm going to give you 3 simple tools that actually work for all kids that help that like compliance, connection, and cooperation with your kids, kids of all ages. And I would love to give everyone that free guide. They can get that on my website. I'm also on Facebook and Instagram at Confidently Mommin'.
Okay. So yes, of course, all the information will be attached to the show notes. And thank you so much for being here and having this conversation.
Thank you so much for having me. This was wonderful.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to follow and subscribe to the Mental Health Break podcast. It would really help us get discovered by others if you do. And now you can text us directly and share your thoughts with us about this episode. Until next time.